G'day guys, just figured I'd film another quickie. I was just getting this thing up and running again. This is a 1998 Ford Exploder. Exploder for obvious reasons. Have a bit of a reputation, these things, especially the 4-litre 6-cylinder, as this one is. Now this thing, I don't know if it's just because I've looked after it really well, or maybe the reputation's undeserved, but this thing's actually run really nicely for the entire time I've owned it. Like, I daily drove it for a good 6 years, decent amount, and long distance, short distance, daily, the whole way. The only reason why I parked it up is because it got too expensive to run as a daily. But now, because I got a bit of free cash and a bit of free time, I'm going to get it set up as a hunting truck and a off-roader. So it's going to get some works done. But before I could get any of that done, I had to figure out why it wasn't running. And it was a problem that started after I did the timing chains, which is another problem these things have. The timing chains weren't actually that difficult to do. The whole process took me about a week, and after work, just doing it in my own time, and it was, pretty easy. Got the engine back in there, and then after a while, it just every so often just wouldn't crank, wouldn't start. The starter motor would tick, and it would not crank, and then you'd turn the key off, let it sit for a couple minutes, turn it back on, it would crank and start just fine and run. And it did that off and on for about a year and a half, and then I parked it up and went to go start it, probably 2019, and it wouldn't start. It would not go. And so just finished digging out the problem why, and I'll cut to that right here. Well, I found out why the starter wasn't working. When the bolt's loose and the wire's flopping around on there, it doesn't quite work so well. I'll get it cleaned up and get it back in there. So the positive terminal falling off of the starter motor is a pretty decent reason why it wouldn't start. Now, I could lean on the reputation of the vehicle a little bit, but my ego's not big enough for that. I had that off, and I didn't tighten it up properly. So that was my fault. And yet, it still reliably drove for a year and a half with a loose bolt or a loose nut on the starter motor. So, it's actually not too bad. So I haven't actually started this yet. I've only just put the starter motor back in and figured I'd give this a quick film. So here we go. I'll just we'll get that connected back again, and I will tighten it up properly like you're supposed to do. Now the cool thing about this thing is I don't know if the previous owner had a cam in it or did an exhaust to it or what, but it sounds really good, and it runs really nicely, really smooth. You'll see that in a moment as soon as I find the keys. So I haven't started this yet, so we'll see how it goes. Dash is cleared up, so that's a good sign. And how's that? It's running. Won't do that too much. He hasn't been running for 2 years, so I don't want to go and do any damage to him. Let it warm up nicely. Has oil, has coolant, gone over the liquids, so they're all good. So yeah, he's running good, and sounds just as good as I remember. So yeah, with that, I'll get some bumpers put on there. I'll be filming a video of that, getting some bumpers made. Need to do brakes, mild lift, not going crazy. Get a locker installed on the rear, and yeah, get it out onto a trail. Cheers guys.